Shalom, this is Hakham Melech and Ya'aqov of Karaite Insights, and I'm trying to get back into doing some of these Facebook Live thingies, and I thought of something that I wanted to share. Now, one of the things that's really become clear to me more and more, I mean, I always knew it. I've known it since I was a little kid. We've all known it since we were little kids, that the world is surrounded by very evil is too overused a word, but by some very mean, nasty, selfish people who do anything to get what they want, whether it's money, whether it's control, whether it's power, the feeling of control and power over another person, the desire to feel like a god, right? So let's think back to the schoolyard. It's an analogy that's often used. We know, there were some nice kids, and there were some quiet kids, and there were some very helpful kids, and there were just some nasty, mean bullies. And quite frankly, everyone probably had a little bit of both sides, especially as kids. We were all young and immature. Maybe some tended more towards the mean, some tended towards the nice. I tended to be a nice kid, but I definitely did some mean things as a child and as a teenager. I think we all did. But the point being that ever since we were children, we're used to being surrounded by meanness, cruelty, evil all around us, okay? And the thought that I have today is a very specific thought regarding that, okay? We live in a world now where it just seems like evil has gotten completely out of control. I mean, you turn on the radio every day, you turn on the TV every day, you read the news every day, and it just seems completely insane, some of the stuff that's going on in the United States of America, in other countries, everywhere, okay? But the nation to try to make himself a god and control and pick apart like a little spider, the other person. And that's one of the techniques they use the most is that such a person uses is intimidation. Okay, so why does intimidation work so well? Okay, the first reason that it works so well is that it doesn't really require any effort. Okay, if I intimidate, if I use fear to make my opponent submit, then I don't actually have to go to battle. I don't actually have to go to war. Okay, so let's say I were a mean person and I wanted to exert control over another person, and I would say something like, if you don't do such and such, if you don't give me $1 million, then I'm going to, I'm going to let the secret out about you, or I'm going to hurt your family, or whatever the case may be. Now, if the other person is scared, then that's it. I've now won the battle. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to let any secrets out. I don't have to risk getting in trouble, or risk having a botched operation of hurting the other person's family, God forbid. And well, I mean, there may be times when that needs to be done, but at any rate, the point is that when one uses intimidation, when the bully or the mean person uses intimidation, and then the other person, most people are usually pretty submissive and fearful by nature, okay, especially in this crazy, dangerous world. When the other person submits to that intimidation, then the bully doesn't have to do any work. It's really easy. All he can do is just issue threats and reach his goals, reach his ends. Okay, so that's the number one reason why intimidation is such an effective tool, and why mean people and bullies use it, because it saves workload. The other reason is, I forgot what the other reason is. It happens sometimes when I'm doing videos, so I'll just move on. Okay, so now what do we do to resist this intimidation? Let me give you an example. Okay, I like to drive, and I like to drive fast. And I like to have fun on the road. I'm a very safe driver, but I like to pick up the speed, and so that means I have a lot of run-in with police, unfortunately. And always I notice that there's a dynamic when you have a run-in with police, no matter what country it's in, whether it's in the United States, whether it's in Israel, doesn't matter where it is, where they want to they are now coming to you as if they're the master and you're the slave. You're expected to submit to them, and they're trying to show dominance over you. And one of the ways they do that is through intimidation. Okay, and there are all kinds of intimidation techniques. I mean, they go very deep. I mean, you can listen on the news. They'll also always, they'll the way they're portrayed in the news. For instance, the police will issue statements saying, "Oh, we know exactly what you're doing and where you're going," and blah blah. The whole way of them going about it is to intimidate the other person into submission, and that allows them to have control of the situation. But at the same time, what it does is it fulfills a lot of these people's needs to be bullies, to be mean, to be in control, to feel God, to be the master and have someone else be the slave. In fact, that's probably why a lot of people get into politics, into law enforcement, into all of these kinds of things, because really they're petty little disgusting psychopathic bullies who just really want to get their jollies by intimidating other people because, maybe they were just nasty little kids who picked apart, spiders in the schoolyard when they were kids, or, beat up the weak kids, or maybe they were beat up and they have an inferiority complex. Who knows? I mean, there are some good ones out there. There's some good politicians out there. There's some good police out there, but I would say at least 50%, maybe much more, maybe 75% are just petty little bully psychopaths, sociopaths with inferiority complex. And so that what they want to do when they're in a situation, I'm just giving the police this example, it could be anything, it could be a politician, it could be a judge, it could be a teacher, it could be whatever, is they want to feel their power, and they want to show their power over you, show how strong they are, and show how weak you are. They want you to submit, and the main way they make you submit is through intimidation. They will issue threats, or they will issue statements which are designed to scare you, so that now you will be on your hands and knees as a slave before them, who are the master. And that is ultimately their goal. Okay, it's disgusting, it's wrong, and it's sad that especially in a decaying, corrupt society like American society, or a very violent, also kind of decaying, westernized, corrupt society like Israeli society, although Israeli society is marginally better than American society because it does have a certain connection to God still. It does have a certain conservatism that still remains, but it's still pretty messed up there. It's horribly messed up there. So there's this whole dynamic of control and submission, of trying to intimidate the other person. So how do you fight the intimidation? Let's say you're on the side of the person, or let's say you are the person who's in the situation, the dynamic where you're the one who someone else is attempting to intimidate. Again, let's use the example of police. The police come up to you and they want to intimidate you. There are the lights flashing and the loud noises, and each year the noises get more and more deep and scary and thundering. I remember growing up, the cops just had these little sirens. Now they have these booming subwoofers, and they come up and and it's all designed to intimidate you into submission, because the United States has become a sick, decaying tyranny. Like the last days of Rome, it just descends into insanity and violence and craziness. So at any rate, the point that I'm trying to say is, how do you fight this intimidation? Well, these are really weak people. You have to remember that anyone who acts like this in his heart and in his soul has an inferiority complex, or is a psychopath, or has some serious psychological problems, or is a very weak person internally, in his soul, in his mind, maybe even his body, because if you're not healthy in soul and mind, then you cannot be healthy in body. Okay, and the one thing they don't expect, and the one thing they can't deal with in such a situation, is a person not being intimidated by them. That freaks them out, because now they actually have to do some real work. Okay, the sirens didn't work, the loud noises didn't work, the mean look didn't work. Okay, they now actually have to show that there's something beyond just their facade of authority and their facade of being in control, and they actually now have to work. And these lazy sons of bitches are generally not used to working. They're used to sitting in their donut shops and sitting around, and, well, I'm exaggerating. Again, there are some good ones out there, but they don't want to work. They don't want to do that because it requires hard work, and everyone, they're just looking for the easy way out, waiting for their pensions, and et cetera, especially the ones who've been on the police force for a long time. So what do? I'm not saying be violent with them, because that would be stupid, okay? Unless you are, planning to win a battle, you don't go into a battle, right? And but what I'm saying is that you should, at that point, not be intimidated. You should show no fear whatsoever. You should show no submission whatsoever. In other words, you can be polite, okay? But you should not, in your heart, in your mind, and in your soul, be fearful at all. And you could you can actually say that in your, you can actually bring that into your conversation. Like a lot of times if I'm stopped by police, I'll say, listen, I'm recording you. I want you to know you're being recorded. I don't answer any questions whatsoever. I show that I'm in control of the situation, and really they can't deal with it. I've seen police officers in a situation like that look extremely nervous, confused, disoriented. Okay, again, I'm just giving the example of the police, but the idea is, in general, when you have a bully that is trying to intimidate you, that is trying to use intimidation to bully you into submission, to beat you into submission, but without actually doing the work, just doing it using voice and threats and facade, like some animals, like they blow up nice and big to look intimidating, right? Then the thing to do at that point is to not fall for the game, to not fall for the facade, and to not be intimidated, and you stay in control of the situation. And the way you stay in control of the situation is you realize that Yehovah, Elohim, the creator of the universe, is the true God, is the only one who is really in control of this world and really in control of this universe. Every one of us are his servants. Every one of us are his slaves, whether we know it or not, whether we like it or not. That's what we are. And at the end of the day, we are all doing his will. The good people are doing his will out of their own desire to do so, and therefore eventually they'll be rewarded. The evil people are doing his will anyway, because everyone's doing his will. They're just tools in his giant game, and eventually, if they don't repent, they will be just cut down like grass at the end of or like wheat at the end of the harvest season, or at the harvest season. Okay, so this is the thing. Remember who you are. You are a child of Yehovah. You created in his image. Your soul is a little piece of his soul. Remember who they are. They are no more or no less than you. And if they're bullies, they're far less than you. They're psychopaths who have basically given up their connection with God. They're just petty little wannabe dictators who have nothing better going on with their lives except to oppress other people. And remember who Yehovah is. Yehovah is the true and only creator of this universe. He's the only one who has any true power in this universe, in this world, and it is to him that we must listen. It is to him we must bow at all times, and it's to him we must remember that we owe our allegiance and our fear and our loyalty and our desire to do his will. So with that being said, keep in mind, that being said, I'll sum up, okay? And the summary is this: we are surrounded by people who never grew up. They never grew out of their little childhood desires to be the center of the world, to be the king of the universe, to bully other people around, to boss other people around, to smack somebody to get what they want, or when they don't get their way. These are all childish, little, immature pieces of dirt who have never grown out of their infantile immaturity. Okay? And the way we deal with them is not to fall into their games, to remember who we are. When we follow the ways of Yehovah, when we follow the Torah, when we're connected to ourselves, our souls and our minds and our bodies, and when we're connected to Yehovah, the creator of the universe, and when we're connected to the Torah, and when we're connected to the land of Israel, and we remember exactly who we are, then we know that where we stand in the game, and we know where they stand in the game. Those who are loyal and good to Yehovah, and who are kind and merciful and polite and nice to other people, they are the ones who will rise to the top in the end, okay? To quote the New Testament, and I am not a Christian, I say it every time I quote the New Testament, but I do like certain quotes in the New Testament, and I do have respect for the original character of Jesus. It's too bad the Christians turned into a god and a son of God and a demigod, but at any rate, to quote the New Testament, not a Christian, to quote the New Testament, the meek shall inherit the earth, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. Okay, and the evil people shall inherit the wind, and I think that's from Proverbs, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so with that in mind, I will end this little talk. Hope you enjoyed it. My name is Hakham Melech ben Ya'aqov of Karaite Insights. You can visit us on www.karaiteinsights.com and of the World Alliance of Qara'im, and you can join our Facebook group, World Alliance of Qara'im. Thanks, and may Yehovah be with you.